everyone. This is Rod Ward from Infosemantics and my son, Tristan,
Hi.
Also known as the Widget King. And today we're going to be showing you a new widget that Tristan has developed as a part of our move towards HTML5. As you probably know, Infosemantics has about 10 widgets that we've sold from our website now for a few years. These were all SWF widgets based on Flash. However, now that Adobe has indicated that the future Flash will not be supported, we're moving towards HTML5, and we have been working for a number of months now on developing a new widget which we think that you'll be very interested in. So Tristan, we'd just like to ask you then, this new widget is called CpExtra. Can you tell us basically what it does or what it is?
Okay, CpExtra is a widget for Captivate 9 and up. It is a HTML5 only widget, and while in previous widgets we made just a single tool, a widget that did a single function, CpExtra is more like a multi-tool. All the tools you could ever need in one convenient package, a lot more bang for your buck.
Okay, so this sort of raises a question perhaps in people's mind. With our previous widgets, they were known for having quite sophisticated interfaces. The widget properties dialog had to cater for all the settings that a widget might have, and some of those dialogues or those property interfaces actually took a long time to build, even more so sometimes than the functionality of the widget. If you're saying that CpExtra replaces a lot of these previous widgets with what it can do, then what about the dialogue? Is that going to be massively complex?
Well, let's have a look at it, why don't we? We've got Captivate open here. By going to Interactions and then Learning Interactions, we can pull up a list of all the widgets available. We can scroll down and we can see when installed properly, CpExtra will appear in there.
Okay, so CpExtra will come up with all of the other learning interactions in Captivate.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a little animated one there. If I just select that and insert that widget into the project.
Okay, that's the interface you've got to work with. You have all of one button, and that leads you to the help, which might be exactly what you're screaming at the moment.
Okay, so there's really nothing to configure in the widget here, in the widget properties interface. So the question is, how do you actually configure this widget and get it to do all these supposed things if you can't do it here?
Well, basically, the widget is using Captivate as its interface. In Captivate, you have various places where you can name things, such as giving objects names, giving states names, or variables names. This widget uses a lot of variables. It sort of reserves certain variable names, and if you create a variable by that exact name, by interacting with that variable, you will be interacting with this widget.
Okay, so it's a similar approach in our previous widgets. You would often use the object name to indicate or identify an object on the slide that you would be making a drag object or a target object and things like that. So it follows a similar situation there. Okay, now how does it actually do anything? What as you say, it's providing all this functionality based on the naming of the object. So Captivate Extra is providing the underlying code. Is that the way it would work? And so you're building on top of that. How many of these widgets do you need to add into each project then?
One.
Just one?
Just one widget. Just put it right at the beginning of the project and you're good for the rest of it.
So you can replicate a lot of functionality of multiple widgets with one widget.
One single widget.
Into the project. Okay. Well, the question then is, obviously, where the person who's using this is going to need to know how to get it to work. Are we looking at advanced level users or new users of Captivate that could use this?
Mid to advanced, because if it's working with variables, you're going to need to be fairly familiar with advanced actions. So if you look at the Infosemantics...
Yeah, we have an ebook about using Captivate variables and advanced actions, and also a video tutorial course about advanced actions and variables as well.
After going through that, you should be more than well enough.
Okay, so not for newbie developers, someone who actually is familiar with advanced actions and variables and then on up.
Yes.
They can use this to take them to the next level.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of what you're actually being able to access through CpExtra is advanced JavaScript code.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be a JavaScript developer then?
No, you do not. Even if you are a JavaScript developer, this is a lot more convenient to use.
All right, so it's a platform that you can build on.
Yes.
All right, now, what kind of features then can you expect this to add to Captivate?
Basically, there are 3 areas that we do. First of all, making Captivate work differently. Second, making Captivate do things it couldn't do before. Third, making Captivate work faster.
You mean the development of Captivate projects to work faster? Okay, let's see some examples then. So if I just go over here to we'll call up a browser.
Okay, so this is showing how play bars work in regular Captivate. You can see that you can click anywhere or drag the play bar in order to move it back and forth. Sometimes you want that, other times you don't. You might get the user jumping to a part of your course that they shouldn't see yet.
All right.
So in order to stop this, you would think there would be a preference in Captivate that allowed you to stop them dragging.
Turn off the play bar scrubbing or turn off the play bar.
Unfortunately, there isn't. So if you go to the next slide,
okay,
you can press that button. That enables a CpExtra preference, which allows you to turn this scrubbing on or off as you please.
All right. So currently, if I've got scrubbing on there, I can jump around and move the actual playhead that way. But if I turn it off, which is turning off a preference in CpExtra, now no matter what I do, I can't actually move that anywhere.
That's correct.
So I can still see the play bar, or this progress bar area of the play bar, but it's not responding to clicks, not responding to the user.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so previously, if you wanted to disable the ability for the users to jump around this way, navigate this way, you'd have to actually remove this from the project skin settings. You'd have to turn that. Yeah, you'd have to turn that off. Sometimes you do actually want it to be visible. All right, well, that's one thing. What else can we do? Let's have another look at another example.
Another area where everyone would really like Captivate to work a little better would be text entry box. There's just some little ways that they work which is a bit strange. Here's an example here.
Okay, so we have a text entry box that was added into the project here. It's on the next slide actually, and by default it's named text entry box 1. Now Captivate always adds an associated variable to every text entry box with the same name as the text entry box. So this particular associated variable, we've just set it now to have a default value of hello world, but the text entry box already has default text set up in it. And if we just go to the next slide, notice now that the text entry associated variable has been overwritten by the text entry box's default text. So if I jump back to that previous slide, then you can see that that's what it is there now.
It's been changed.
It's been changed.
Now, the reason why that can be quite a bit of a problem is that, say this was part of a really big form and you wanted them to put in all their details. Okay, they did that. Then they went to the next slide and then they thought, oh, I need to change that. I need to put in something wrong. Then they go back there. Oh, well, it's all gone now. All of
the information is gone.
All of the information is gone.
So it doesn't actually work, or previously you couldn't get text entry boxes to work the way that you wanted them to. Yeah. So if I put now my name in there, and then I jump back, I can see that that's what the text entry box associated variable is saying. But if I use Captivate Extra to disable this overwrite behavior of the text entry boxes, so just clicking a button here to set that preference, when I go here now, there it is. It's still maintaining it.
Yes, and that's very simple and easy to set
All right. Well, I can see a lot of people that would actually be able to use that. This is a question that comes up a lot in the Captivate forums. Let's have a look at another example then, that perhaps more along the lines of what you said before about extending Captivate's functionality.
Okay, one thing that a lot of people really want to do is they want to persist data from one Captivate module to another Captivate module. Example here, we have created a menu slide in Captivate that allows you to go to different Captivate projects.
All right, so this menu is actually just one Captivate project. You can see up here it's called menu.
Yep.
And if I jump to another module, it's a different module altogether, not the same Captivate project. And having reached a couple of slides to the end there, now I jump back to the main menu. Here I've got an indicator that's showing that I have visited that module.
Yes. So this is using a number of CpExtra features. Altogether, to make this, there was no advanced actions required.
So to actually hide and show everything here, if it's not using advanced actions, what's it using?
It's using a little feature in CpExtra, which according to how you name a state of an object, it will show and hide according to certain conditions. In this case, whether a variable is true or false.
So the variable that is being persisted across these projects in the background here is all that's required to actually make this react to that and show it.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go through these in order. I could jump to module 3 and then jump back to the main menu.
Yeah.
And that's actually now once again showing that I've visited module 1 and module 3, but not module 2.
And if you really want to see something cool, close down the browser.
So if I shut the browser down completely and then open it back up again,
yep,
and go back to that particular example. So it still remembers it even after the browser is completely closed. So this is actually stored outside of the browser. This data is actually stored in an area that the browser doesn't forget.
Yes, it does. And that may not be the way that you want it to work, but you can configure this so that when you close down the browser, it is forgotten. So it is completely your choice. And by pressing that clear course data button.
Okay, and then refresh the browser again. So now it's forgotten. We've actually cleared the cache data that was remembering that.
Yes.
So this is the ability then for, it's not just for menu slides. You could use this for a lot of things like the identity of the user. If the user put their name in on the first module and then you wanted that to show up all the way through all the other modules in the course.
Or if you wanted to make this a little bit more complicated and show them what percentage score they got in that module, you could use the same.
Good. I was thinking also you give them, like they score a certain amount in module 1, a certain amount in module 2. You could remember those scores and show them in a slide at the end of all of them to indicate their total score for the entire course.
Or even customize later lessons according to how they answered questions in previous modules.
A lot of potential for dynamic courses there.
Yes.
Let's look at another thing in this area of extending Captivate's functionality that you talked about.
Yeah, so some of you may remember our event handler widget, a very simple widget that allowed you to call an advanced action when you clicked on something or rolled over something or right-clicked, double-clicked on something. Well, a lot of people have been wanting to see this converted into an HTML5 widget, and we've actually incorporated it into CpExtra, which is very good because in HTML5 it is very difficult to tell when something rolls over in Captivate.
Well, in tablets there's really no rollover event anyway, but the problem is that you're still going to be delivering a lot of courses on the desktop where people will be using a mouse and will be rolling over things, and maybe you'll be building simulations for software that does actually use rollover.
Yeah.
So you do actually need it from time to time.
Okay, so if we have a look at this example that we have here.
Okay, so this is using event listeners, using CpExtra to create event listeners in code that will then detect certain mouse events on the slides at runtime. Okay, so on the next slide here, we've got a number of boxes, and if I run my mouse, as in this case I did, over this box at the top here, and it's detected the mouse over event. In this next box, it's detecting not the mouse over, but the mouse out event. So moving my mouse out of that box after moving it in has detected that event. This one, if I click down on that box, then it detects the mouse down event. But in this one, if I click down, it won't detect an event until I let my mouse up, and then it detects the mouse up. This is just a normal click event,
which is a mouse down and a mouse up on the same object.
2 parts to it. And this one, I can do a double click on this, or I can just do a click event like that, or a double click, and it will tell the difference between a click and a double click. So it might be if I have a situation where I want different events triggered depending on those 2 events.
Which can be very important for software simulation.
Very true. Yeah, sometimes you click it, it does one thing, you double click it, it does another. And this one, of course, the usual right-click event. So all of these events are now possible in HTML5 in Captivate.
Yes, and the mouse also gets a little bit more love with another feature. Some of you may remember that we had a custom cursor widget which allowed you to change how the mouse cursor appeared inside of Captivate. We have implemented something similar inside of CpExtra here, which allows you to change custom which allows you to set custom cursors for certain objects.
Okay, so in this particular project that I have on the screen now, if I go over to the next slide here, I've got all these boxes on the slide which are currently not reacting in any different way, but by turning on mouse cursors, and now when I mouse over each of these, you can see the cursor is changing into a different type of cursor. So there's a hand, there's one for help, to click something to get extra help. If you're doing a simulation in Excel, you mouse over a cell, it'll change to that plus sign. Text entry box, it'll give you the I-beam. This one here, if you're waiting for something to happen, or this one if there's some progress. This one here, you want to move something, maybe drag it. Something's not allowed, zooming out, zooming in. Or in this one here, if I mouse over that object, the mouse cursor disappears entirely. And I can turn that on or off just at will by manipulating one of the CpExtra preferences there.
Now, of course, this is not changing what happens when you click or interact with these shapes at all.
No, but it would be very handy if you're actually building a software simulation and you're trying to actually show things that do actually happen when you're using the real software. And previously, that's been almost impossible to replicate in Captivate.
It's more immersive that way.
All right. Now, you did mention that there are ways of actually speeding up development time, and that CpExtra can actually help you get through more work. How about we have a look at an example of that?
So this is using a little feature that's appeared in some of our widgets before called @syntax.
Now, what is @syntax?
Okay, well, remember we were talking about before, each item inside of Captivate can have its own name.
Yes.
So, for example, you wanted to use a widget to drag a whole lot of objects around screen. Well, say you've got 10 of them. Well, you could say, okay, that one, put in each individual name into the widget, which can be quite laborious. Or you can tell the widget, okay, just look for any object that's got _drag on the end of its name. And those are the objects I want to
make them draggable.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that would save a lot of time.
Yes. So that can be represented by writing @_drag.
So Captivate Extra is actually set up to use @syntax in certain situations. And we have a look at an example here. We built a slide. We have a pop-up dialog which will open up when I click this. So there's the dialog. It's made up of about 7 different objects, this background and this background here, this little header bar, this button up here, text entry box, a button. All of that is actually shown or hidden all at once, but I believe there's no advanced actions involved in this.
No, it's just a single assignment action which is able to hide and show all of these objects.
So they're just all of these objects happen to have the same little suffix on the end of their name, and that's all it's using to know that it hides or shows them.
Now, some of you may be thinking, well, I could just do that with a group, right?
Yeah, group the objects, yeah.
Well, although it allows you to do it in this context with hiding and showing, this is a concept that's through a lot of features inside of CpExtra. So for what we just saw with event listening, you could listen to a whole lot of objects with just one line of code using @syntax.
Or even the mouse cursor. You could have any object with a certain suffix there that would get a certain mouse cursor.
Yes.
Right. Well, I can see how that would certainly speed up development time. You just do a lot with a very little piece of text at the end of the line.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's very interesting, but these are only just a few of the actual functions that are available in it, just the ones that we wanted to demonstrate today. What about the future? What sort of things have we got planned for CpExtra?
Well, assuming things go well, we'll be very eager to implement the slider and rotator widgets so that they can work with HTML5 as well. We want to be able to have advanced actions be called when a variable changes, when a slide object enters the timeline or exits its timeline.
Maybe is it possible to do maybe when an audio object starts playing and finishes playing, or a video starts playing and finishes playing?
Definitely make our lives a lot easier if it could, and yes, it's definitely up there as one of our priorities.
I think it's also important that perhaps the Captivate community, if they have things that they are actually hoping they could get Captivate to do, we'd really like to hear about that, because some of these things, not everything, but some of these things are quite possible to do with the right JavaScript code and implement it into the runtime. So if you have an idea and you'd like Captivate to do something it doesn't currently do, then by all means forward those suggestions on and we'll have a look at it. And if possible, if it's a practical thing to do, then we might be able to build that into CpExtra in the future. All right, well, thank you very much for helping us to understand that. I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more about this particular widget because it does seem to solve, or have the potential even to solve, more problems in the future with Captivate. And we look forward to hearing more news about it in the future.
Well, I look forward to telling you.